Hello, everyone. My name is Gregory, and this is The View from Out Here. Today, I want to talk about the presidential debate on Tuesday evening between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, and my observations about how it went. I was one among 67 million viewers who watched the debate, and I'm so glad that so many of you saw it. There was a stark difference between how each candidate approached this debate. Right from the start, Trump went directly to his podium without so much as acknowledging the presence of the vice president. Kamala Harris had to cross the stage to his podium to offer the courtesy of a handshake. Trump clearly did not intend to shake hands with her, and he was surprised by this gesture. They had never met in person, and Harris was confidently letting Donald Trump and the viewing audience know that she was not afraid of him. She came to debate and had no intention of being intimidated by his size or his reputation. She took charge of the debate at that moment and held it throughout the hour and a half. There was a meme going around on Facebook earlier this week describing it pretty pointedly for me. It said, Harris was a childless cat lady with a laser pointer, and Trump was a cat chasing after that laser all night. There was a There was a split screen for most of the debate, and that image of the two side by side was revealing about both of them. Throughout the debate, Trump was hunched forward and scowling, much like you saw in his mugshot from earlier this year. His body language was absolutely screaming that he did not want to be there. It looked like he knew he was about to have his ass handed to him on a platter. I didn't see him look at her directly at any time during the debate. When he was talking about her, his gaze was riveted on the moderators, and he was making hand gestures in her direction, often in a dismissive and condescending manner. He was disrespectful throughout the debate, and the content of his whole presentation was negative, defensive, accusatory, divisive, and seethingly angry. He continuously denigrated the United States, exaggerating that we are a failed nation without him, and that President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were pathetic, weak losers who are driving the United States to ruin. Then, of course, there was his lying. He is clearly obsessed with people of color coming across our southern border. He brought that up several times during the debate, even while answering questions that had nothing to do with the border. He worked it into his answers to almost any question that they asked. At one point, in response to Harris's invitation to voters to attend one of his rallies to see him talk about Hannibal Lecter and sharks and wet batteries and dead birds because of windmills and children coming home from school with a sex change, she also mentioned people leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and sheer boredom. He took the bait in a big way. He immediately went off the rails. His obsession with size is critical to his self-image, and she skillfully used it as bait early on in the debate. She knew that that would set him off, and just like clockwork, that's exactly what happened. But he wasn't done. He went on to dig the hole deeper. He insisted that illegal Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating cats and dogs of the people who lived there. When David Muir fact-checked him and explained that ABC had contacted the city manager in Springfield, who reported that they had no credible reports of immigrants eating pets. ABC had certainly done more debate prep than Donald Trump had. Trump continued to insist that the story was true. He had seen it on TV and everything. And he nearly got into an argument with Muir about it. At one point, he shouted emphatically, "They're eating the pets of the people who live there." When Trump was pressed by Lindsey Davis about his plan to replace the Affordable Care Act, the best he could come up with is, "We have a concept of a plan." Across the internet, conservatives were whining that this debate was unfair because it was 3 against 1. The moderators were fact-checking Trump more than Harris. But in all fairness, Trump needed a lot more fact-checking, the kind of fact-checking, incidentally, that the moderators of his Biden debate didn't do. And the moderators didn't fact-check him nearly as much as they could have. That would have taken too much time away from the candidates. They also gave him significantly more time to talk than Harris because he kept interrupting their questions to respond to the bait that Harris was laying out for him. Harris, meanwhile, stayed pretty close to the facts as opposed to the wild conspiracy theories and outright lies that Trump was telling. On the other side of the screen was Kamala Harris, who appeared attentive and engaged with the conversation the whole time. While Trump was speaking, she often turned to look at him directly and was visibly engaged with what he was saying, sometimes inquisitive, sometimes smiling and laughing, and sometimes emphatic, but dignified throughout. At one point, you could see her in the split screen kind of leaning back with a satisfied smile as she watched Trump gobble up the bait that she was laying out for him. It was a beautiful thing to see. In all fairness, Harris and Trump both did avoid answering some of the questions. Now, the conservatives criticizing both candidates for that was fair. They were both doing it. Immediately following the debate, Donald Trump made his way to the spin room himself, where he was spouting off fantasies about how well he did. He was throwing around numbers ranging from 70 to 93% of people polled thought he had won the debate. I think we all know where those numbers were coming from. He just kept making up numbers he didn't settle on one, he just kept making up numbers to create the illusion that he won the debate. You're going to see a lot more of that starting on about November 7th or 8th if he loses. It's going to be a close election, so the results won't be decided for a few days after the election. If I were a betting man, I would say that he will declare himself the winner sometime around the early morning hours of November 6th, like he did in 2020. I know that I should be a bit more even-handed with these two candidates, but it's pretty difficult to do so with what we all saw. Kamala Harris handled Donald Trump like my grandma handles her dough while making bread. I said a few weeks ago that Donald Trump is not going to be able to hide his advanced age or mental illness standing on a stage next to Kamala Harris, and I was dead on. Harris had to remind Trump twice during the debate that as much as he misses running against Joe Biden, that he is not running against Biden anymore. He's running against her now. And it's clear that Donald Trump is fixated on President Joe Biden because Biden was the one who made him into a loser in front of the whole world. There is one more thing that I want to draw your attention to. I trust that you've already seen the clips of the more outrageous stuff that Trump said about the Haitians eating cats and dogs, and Kamala Harris wants to perform sex assignment reassignment surgery on children while they're in school and all that craziness. But I do have a clip of something that Donald Trump said during the debate that I don't think most people caught. This was during the discussion about the Biden administration withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. Have a look.
If you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed.
Now that is some straight up old school New York gangster shit. Donald Trump just told us that he threatened the leader of the Taliban and his family by telling him that we know where you live. I mean, that's dialogue straight out of a Mario Puzo Godfather movie. Say, that's a lovely home and family you have there. It would be a shame if something were to happen to them. I've said it before and it bears repeating. Donald Trump is an old school New York gangster and has been for most of his adult life. This isn't the first time that he has advocated for killing the innocent family members of his enemies. This one is from when he was president, and he was talking about the same time period that he was referring to in the debate. Here's what it looked like.
Enthusiastic about bombing areas that ISIS currently operates in they frequently will pay lip service to the idea that we should minimize civilian casualties during those bombing. Not Donald Trump. He thinks, in fact, that they are essential. And you'll hear that here.
I would knock the hell out of. I like to do one thing at a time. I would knock the hell out of ISIS.
Okay.
I would hit them, Brian, so hard like they've never been hit.
What about civilian
before.
casualties? What about the fact that we're targeting them and people are very concerned about collateral damage?
I would do my best, absolute best, but we're fighting a very politically correct war.
Yeah.
Well, we see that
And the
happening
other
in
thing
Ramadi.
is with the terrorists, you have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families.
This guy is a mob boss who is running for president of the United States, and he's being taken seriously. Let that sink in for just a moment. Donald Trump is telling us who he is, who he really is, and I don't think enough people are listening. If Donald Trump gets into the White House again, don't try to be acting all new like you didn't know what was going to happen next, because he's been telling us for years. All in, I don't think this debate is going to change anybody's mind about how they're going to vote. That's how deep the divisions in this country are right now. But it did fill in a lot of the blanks that may have existed about who Kamala Harris is. And for that, I think this debate was time well spent, despite its many flaws. I went through the podcast that I've done so far, and thank you for the few of you who have been watching. And I realized that I have not actually endorsed the Harris-Walz ticket yet. Let me correct that oversight right now. I know that I've already said that if the Democrats wanted to put up a ham sandwich for president, that I would vote for the ham sandwich. Fortunately, I don't have to vote against Donald Trump anymore. I'm voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because I believe in the democratic republic that I've called home for the last 72 years. And I know that Donald Trump has demonstrated every day that he does not. I'm just glad that I finally have someone that I can vote for in this election, and I sincerely hope that you'll join me. Anyway, I want to thank you for hanging with me so far, and if you're finding anything of value here, please take a second to like and subscribe with the icons below. And don't forget about my books, Basic Video Production, Everything You Need to Know to Make Video Like a Professional, and Searching for Saint Germain, The True Story of a Gay Catholic Orphan. That would be me. You'll find links to both in the description below. And if you have Kindle Plus, you can read both of them for free. Meanwhile, my name is Gregory, and this has been The View from Out Here. Much love.
From kind.